I was trying some videos where I was like filming chopping everything because I think that's what a lot of people do. And I felt like the videos seemed really boring when I was chopping things. Yeah, I saw this on YouTube like years ago. It was like a video of a guy and he was like teaching you how to chop an onion, but like instead of teaching you, he was just throwing it against the wall. And he's like, oh, that wasn't right. Then he would try again and then eventually it would just explode. And I thought it was like the coolest thing that he could just like make an onion explode. Now it's become like a true part of my style that I do in most videos.
You're listening to Food Empires by Grocer's List. I'm your host, Ben Jabawi. All right. Today we are here with Sarah Bond from Live, Eat, Learn. I'm super excited to have you, Sarah.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Yeah. I feel like I know you almost better than a lot of our customers just because we see each other at all the events. But today, you know, I looked at your TikTok, I looked at your Instagram. You've got over 1 million across all of these, right?
Yeah, it's grown a lot in the last 2 years. So yeah, I think we're there.
Amazing. And what I wanted to do is just like rewind the clock. I know you've been doing this for a while, and that's kind of the whole idea of the show, is to really help inspire people of like what got you into this, how you actually started, which channels you started on, all of that. So maybe take us back to the top and like help us understand how you actually got into this.
Yeah. So I started the site as a website, as a blog in 2015. So things were a lot different back then. I really started it as like an SEO game kind of, making recipes based on keyword research and doing exclusively photo content and, sort of just like writing what was going on in my life. It was kind of like a mix between like the old fashioned like blog diary, but also mixed with like trying to chase these keywords. So that's how it started. And it's since evolved a lot as algorithms have shifted and social media has taken a lot more of an important sort of presence in what I do every day. So, but yeah, basically it's just me sharing easy vegetarian recipes online, and it's shifted a lot over the last 10 years, but that's basically what I do.
Awesome. And is that what your background's in, right? You studied nutrition or?
Yeah. So I studied nutrition for my bachelor's. And my goal was to go into dietetics, like as my main job. And so after I graduated, I went on to do my master's in dietetics, sort of working like in a hospital space. But I quickly realized that it wasn't really the direction I wanted to go. I wanted to work in health and in food, but I realized dietetics was not, I don't know, it wasn't like lighting me up the same way that like cooking and tasting and making food does. So I sort of shifted paths, and that's around the same time that I started the blog, sort of as a way to explore cooking and how to make food taste good. And yeah.
So you were like 22, 23 at the time?
Yeah.
Did you know that there was potential for a career here? Like who helped you understand that there was potential? Yeah.
So I lived by the Pinch of Yum income reports. They published those, I think, monthly back then. And that was really nice just to know that like it was a possibility, that income was possible with this. And then Minimalist Baker at the same time was publishing sort of guides on how to start a blog. And so with those two, it made me realize that it was like a potential job. And so I did start it as a way of making money. I know a lot of people started it sort of as like a diary or like a way of collecting recipes. Mine was a little bit that, but it was mostly like I saw potential for income and I wanted to know if that was possible for me. So, yeah.
So, and how many years in are you?
10 years now. Yeah.
What roughly would you say your traffic looks like on the blog now?
We're over 1 million visitors a month right now.
Do you ever stop and think like, wow, that's crazy?
It is pretty crazy. Yeah. Especially like, I like to go in and see like how many people are on the site at a specific time. And I feel like that's even more wild because it's just like, yeah, there's a lot of people.
Part of this, like just prepping for this episode was going back and I understand a big part of your story was like, you became a vegetarian. You were really just exploring, it seems like, how to cook in this new lifestyle.
So
and I
Great.
found your first post, right? So the caption says first ever pizza from scratch attempt. What does it feel like to look back at this right now?
Yeah. I mean, it's wild. Like, yeah, because like me starting the blog, like even the name of the blog, like Live, Eat, Learn, it was sort of to document my learning how to cook. So it's funny that this is my first post because like I had no idea how to cook. Um, and like it looks good.
It actually looks amazing.
But
Yeah.
yeah, that was really the starting of it was like teaching myself how to cook because I knew the basics of like health and nutrition, but I just had no idea how to make things taste good. So, and now it's kind of evolved into like me teaching people how to make things taste good and be healthy and nutritious. But it's funny to see those throwbacks and how much things have changed.
So were you just like documenting all of this in a notebook and then moving it to your blog, or was there some sort of like strategy to what you were doing?
My strategy, so at the time I was doing featured ingredients. So every week I would, we had this store, I lived in San Antonio at the time, and we had this store called Central Market where it's just like the way they arrange the ingredients and like fruits and vegetables, I was just obsessed with. So I would just go in and pick a random vegetable or fruit and then learn how to cook with it that week. And so the recipes were really sort of centered around that ingredient. So if I got like beets, then I would figure out how to make a dessert beet recipe and like a pasta beet recipe and how to just roast beets basically. So it's kind of centered around that as a way to like stretch the ingredient and stretch my way of learning how to cook with it. And that was really the way that the blog was laid out for probably 5 years was through these featured ingredients.
And what about chickpeas? I feel like chickpeas is such a big part of your brand today.
Yeah, that's kind of a remnant of the featured ingredients because I realized after the 5 years, the featured ingredients were kind of holding me back because I'd done so many of the most basic ingredients. And at that point, it was like, I really want to like make this thing, but it doesn't fit with this like rigid box that I've set for myself. But I loved chickpeas and like my audience loved chickpeas. So I started Chickpea Friday as a way to like carry through that featured ingredient sort of history and like celebrate an ingredient that we all love, but then it's sort of more, I don't know, a little bit more flexible. It doesn't sort of contain me as much, but then it's also something people really look forward to.
And that's one of your favorite recipes that you have today. You said marry me chickpeas.
Yeah, that it's like a reader favorite. It's one of my favorites. It's one of the first that like really went viral for us. So like it holds a spot in my heart.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
We'll have to try it.
Yeah.
I want to pull up another video I found of yours, which I'll play. I know it's a little bit hard for you to see. Do you remember this one?
Yeah, this one was this was wild because this was when I was still really sort of keyword chasing. So there was like a lot of keyword potential for how to microwave baked potatoes, which is obvious. Like it's just really boring. And now I think AI overviews would just steal the keyword completely. Like you're just going to see the answer on Google. So it's not something I would go for now from a keyword perspective, but I wanted to try to make a video for it. And I thought this video would completely flop because it's just microwaving a potato. But I think something about the hook, like the voiceover hook and how I sort of led people to wonder, what is this way that she's cooking a potato? Because I think I say something like, I ate this every day in college. Like this is my favorite way of cooking potatoes. And then I microwave it. So it's not that exciting, but this was like truly my first viral video, like had over 1 million views, which was crazy for me at the time.
That was why I found it. I was like, wow, this clearly was like a huge moment for you.
Yeah.
So did you post it and you just saw it go crazy right away, or like you went to sleep and woke up and you're like, oh my God?
I don't remember actually. I think it was probably a bit more of a slow burn, but it just kept going and it just really surprised me. Because at the time, I think I didn't have more than probably 30,000 followers on Instagram. So like Instagram wasn't showing my content to a lot of people.
Yeah. And I see this has 30,000 likes, 125 comments, which at that point for you, believe it or not, was a really large amount. You mentioned that you were doing keyword research. I think that would be really helpful as a tactic to just understand like what you mean by that.
Mine is really basic. It was, and it still is. So I just use key search because it's a really affordable tool. At times I've used like Ahrefs and SEMrush, but at this point, I can't really justify the cost of them because they're pretty expensive. So I use key search, and it's basically just so I can see the search volume and how competitive different keywords are. And so at the time, I think that one probably had a pretty high volume and a pretty low competition score. So I thought I could go after it, which is a tactic that worked for a lot of years, but things are changing on Google now.
Yeah. So you said you started with a blog. I scrolled back through your social. I was really surprised. Like today, if you look at one of your posts, you're getting thousands of comments pretty regularly. Even as recently as 2023, I saw that a lot of your posts actually basically had no engagement on them, right? So that's like 8 years in, roughly.
Yeah. I mean, I think we had less than 20,000 Instagram and we didn't even have TikTok, but Instagram followers probably until early 2023 is when it really, because it's like sort of simultaneously we got hit by a pretty big Google update, and that baked potato went sort of crazy. And so that's when I really started putting a lot more energy into social, because I realized that's one thing that's growing. This is how we could sustain the blog. So yeah. But then also like engagement wise, I think when the baked potato exploded, I don't think we had like a grocers list or a mini chat. We didn't have any reason that people would be commenting, because I think the recipe would matter in the caption, or they had to go to the link in my bio, which most people don't do. So I think that's also a reason that the engagement has grown so much.
So talk to us about the dynamic between like how you view social and your blog. Do you think of these as separate channels that you strategize separately around, or what's the story there?
At this point, they're very hand in hand. So it's sort of a mixture of new content and old content, because I have so much old content that at this point we're reshooting a lot of it, creating videos for a lot of it. But I would say they're pretty hand in hand with the strategy. So if I have a recipe coming out, there's always a social push for it. And then that push is always to get people to go back to the website. Yeah.
So you're never like just quietly publishing a new recipe on the site that doesn't come with social promotion?
Not very often.
Yeah.
And that's just because of where we're at with Google right now, that there's not much incentives, because without the social push, it doesn't have that initial traction. So I would say like 80% of the recipes have video and like a social push with short form video.
So channels like social and email, I know is pretty large for you. Like those act as funnels to the site content that you're monetizing through ads.
Yeah, exactly.
Cool. So one of the other things I wanted to bring up is I feel like one of your specialties, at least one of the reasons why I love your content. Every time I see it, I'm like, oh my God, how's she doing this? And I know a lot of people do this, but it's this move where you like, you've got the full veggie and then you show it being chopped up, like, and tossing in. Like, I think it's interesting to talk through because you've perfected it, but like, what gave you that idea, and how do you actually execute on that?
Yeah, no, this was definitely not my own idea. I saw this on YouTube like years ago. It was like a video of a guy, and he was like teaching you how to chop an onion, but like instead of teaching you, he was just throwing it against the wall, and he's like, "Oh, that wasn't right." And he would try again, and then eventually it would just explode. And I thought it was like the coolest thing that he could just like make an onion explode. So, but I started doing it really because when I was working on developing like a style and like a rhythm for creating this content, I was trying some videos where I was like filming chopping everything, because I think that's what a lot of people do. But I couldn't figure out like angles for chopping things, and I felt like the videos seemed really boring when I was chopping things. And so it's like, well, maybe I'll just try this like exploding thing, because it like gets people's attention so quickly, and attention spans are so short on social. So yeah, now it's become like a true part of my style that I do in most videos. But yeah, so basically I usually have two of the ingredient. So if I have an onion, I have like the whole onion, and then I'll have like the chopped onion. So they're like right next to each other, just in case like lighting changes or anything. Like you want the scene to be as still and the same as possible. Like whenever I'm shooting these, I'm like, no one walk near me, like no one shut a door, like things cannot change. Um, and
Even
then
your dog.
yeah, it's like everyone quiet, still. And then yeah, you just like throw the uncut thing and then take it out, and then I'll usually take a handful of like the cut thing and toss that because it's just as important to have the cut thing having sort of motion when it lands in the pot, so it feels kind of
How
like
many times do you think it took you to like really perfect that between the editing and the filming?
well, you get many shots with like the uncut thing, but you only get like one shot really with the cut thing. So it took a while to like figure out like, okay, well, the onion landed there, so like the cut things have to land there too. Otherwise it looks, yeah.
Great technique. I love it. I see it in a lot of your videos. It's a good hook too. You're like,
Yeah,
oh.
it's fun. Yeah.
Um, so let's come back to today a little bit. Like I said, each post, couple thousand comments. I actually have seen that you, at least on Instagram, you've posted over 3,000 times. Like, what have you learned that changed your trajectory on social specifically?
I
Or
mean, I feel like
why do you think it's been so successful over the
yeah,
last 2 years?
I feel like it's always changing. So I do feel like I'm throwing spaghetti at the wall a lot. But I would say the main thing is like consistency and then knowing why people would want to come back to your content. Um, so like for me, I know that people want easy vegetarian dinners. And so I really try to keep my content mainly to that. So when they come to my profile, if they like a video, they're going to come to my profile and I want them to see that I have a history of making things that they would love. Because the reason they're following is because of what I'm going to post and what I could come out with. And so I think having that be as narrow as possible and as clear as possible as soon as someone hits your profile, I think that has been pretty big. Um, and then, yeah, just consistency in creating like the quantity of content and that type of content for people.
And what does that look like for you? Is it 5 videos a week?
Yeah, I'd say we average about 5. And then we'll throw in like a carousel, usually on the weekends, which those perform really well right now. So we're
And
always testing things, but
yeah, so by carousel, you mean like, hey, here's a roundup of 5 or 6 recipes that are somehow related.
yeah. And those will be like sort of the slideshow where they can swipe through.
Do those perform well for you?
Yeah, those do actually really well. And because you can do, within the slideshow, you can do either video clips or photos or both. And so I think those do pretty well because sometimes Instagram, if they show someone one of the slides from the carousel and they don't interact with it, Instagram will show it later and they'll show like a different slide from the same carousel. So you can
Totally.
kind of get double the views.
You
Just
also you're
it.
giving more value, you
Yeah.
know? I think people are like, a lot of us, we scroll through and there's a lot of recipes that hit our feed. And so if there's like, oh, here's like 5, of my top ones, I think that can maybe keep people's interests longer. I don't know.
Yeah. And it's easy. Like it's content you probably already have. Like with the videos, I think I can tell that Instagram will push or social media will push if it's a brand new video that it hasn't been seen before. But with carousels, you can reuse that content and it gets pushed out.
Right. And you probably already have all of that on your phone, picture, a clip of the shot. So at that volume of content, are you shooting it all yourself and editing it? Because I see you personally in all of yours too.
Yeah. Yeah, I shoot and edit everything myself. The shooting, that's one that I'm not sure how I would offload that because I do like to be in the content. Editing, I think that's something I could outsource, but at this point I just haven't found somebody. But then I do have help with posting. So I have someone who posts everything every day, which seems like the smallest task in all of it, but it actually takes so long. Like if you time yourself, how long it takes you to put in the music and do the captions and to disseminate it to TikTok and YouTube and Facebook, it takes you a few hours every day. So that's one thing that's been really nice to outsource. Also because it keeps me off of social, which can be good just to prevent scrolling and prevent
Yeah.
seeing comments you don't want to see. And yeah.
That's really, really good. Plus, I think the skill set required for success at cross posting and all that is more just maybe someone who's super organized rather than someone who's creative and great at editing, which seems to be the harder part of all of this.
Yeah.
So obviously you are a little bit out of breath. I know you've been talking a lot publicly about how you're pregnant. Super excited for you. Maybe let's wrap up with a little sense of like, how are you thinking about life as a creator after you give birth next year? Like, how are you planning for all that?
Yeah. So, I mean, historically, my goal has always been to like grow every year, but this is the first year where it's really like, if I could just sustain the site while I take a maternity leave, which I'm not really sure how we're going to do it at this point, but my goal is to take a nice maternity leave and
Nice.
sort of let the systems that I've created run to hopefully sustain the site. So yeah, that's my main goal. We'll be reducing content a bit. Right now I'm coming out with 3 recipes a week and we're reducing that to 1. So it'll be interesting to see sort of how the community reacts to having less. But yeah, I think just the work-life balance will be the primary goal this year, which
That's
isn't a
awesome.
super exciting goal, but obviously a necessary one.
Yeah. I mean, you got to enjoy this time. You know, you only get it once with each kid, so it's got to be special.
Yeah.
So does that, when you say 1 new recipe a week, you mean on the blog?
Yeah, but that'll go hand in hand with Instagram. So I'll create 1 new recipe that will live on the site, and then that'll have 1 new video that goes out on social every
And
week.
then the rest of the week will be repurposing or just less content overall?
I'm thinking a combination, maybe a little less content,
Yeah.
but then a lot of repurposing. So taking old videos and just re-editing them to be a little different, working on carousels a bit more, sort of just different styles of content because we have so much that we
Yeah.
could sustain it for a few months.
Do you know how many recipes you have at this point?
It's almost 1,000. I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, there's so much content that you could create around what you have, you
Right.
know?
Yeah. And it's just thinking of like clever ways of framing that content
Yeah.
that is new to people or sort of relevant with like relevant trends. And so it's kind of a fun like game. Like what's the trending thing and how can I use this existing content to fit what's working right now?
Yeah.
So,
That's awesome. Well, we've been working together for almost 2 years, which
yeah.
is kind of crazy. It feels like just yesterday. You're in our beta for the memberships product. It's something I'm super excited about. I actually use you now as an example of what a successful program can look like. I know it's still early, but give me a sense of like we were down in New Orleans together. I was talking about memberships. Something made you realize right then and there that you wanted to go live with this. Like what happened? How are you thinking about that?
Well, you were presenting and I had just sort of written off memberships because I thought it was something that was going to take a lot of like active work. And while you were on stage presenting, I was just realizing like this could be something that's passive. This could be something that would like just be amazing for our community. And I think by the time you were off stage, I was like, how do I sign up for this? I need to do this. So, yeah, because I had thought that I needed to provide something additional. Like I was thinking I would need to actively create content such as like meal plans or exclusive recipes or something to have people in this membership. And I realized that I could create a membership side of the site that had a lot of value without having to do anything additionally.
Yeah.
So what it is right now, which like we're still just getting started with it, but the main offerings for it are that they have the whole site ad free. They get a member resource library, which is just a library of like cooking tutorials and just random cooking guides that I've created over the years. And a lot of those are actually posts that I know indexed following Google updates. So they're not really getting traffic anyways. So I thought it was a nice way to sort of repurpose and bring, I don't know, relevancy to some of those posts. And then I give them a free ebook that I sell. So those
It's
are the main
awesome.
offerings. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's been amazing to see. I think you've done a really nice job incorporating it into the core experience of your website in like a value add, non-salesy way. So I think that's a big part of it. I mean, obviously you have a ton of traffic. You're, a leader in the niche that you focus on. And so this is a nice way for you to repurpose and add more value to your loyalists,
Yeah. I think it's like the main thing for me is the ad free.
Yeah.
And how seamlessly that works once they sign up. But I think it's a nice thing to offer our community, because people who are super users who are using these recipes every day, I want to give them a nice experience. And as much as ads are, like such an
It's the
important
lifeblood.
our income,
Yeah.
it's like, I know they're so annoying. And so it's
Yeah.
nice to offer that to people who are using the site so much.
Yeah. I think over the next few years, this will become more commonplace. Like the reason we wanted to build this product is we actually started to see a lot of our food creators pushing their audience to Substack and monetizing there with success, right? And that's great. Like anything that is driving revenue for the creator and value for their audience, we support. I think from our perspective, ownership of your audience is a big thing that we try to drive home through our tools. And it bothers me that not you, but creators spend 10 years building up all this traffic, all this loyalty, and then, you try to push that into someone else's platform for membership. So, I'm totally with you. And I think that if you can do it on top of your site like you are, it's not like you're pulling away the free content,
Mm-hmm.
You're just kind of offering this as an add-on for anyone that wants it, so congrats. I'm excited to continue working with you on that and see where it goes next year. But most importantly, good luck with the childbirth and enjoy maternity. You're going to do awesome.
Well, that was also a huge part of it. It's like, I'm not going to have time to take on something additional, but I think this would be a fun addition to the community that requires nothing after the setup. So far, I've really been enjoying it, and I think people have really liked it. So, yeah.
Awesome. So,
yeah.
Thank you for coming on.
Yeah.
We have a little special thing we'll do. If you are listening and you want the full link, comment the word listen, and we'll send you a DM to the full podcast episode, and we'll also send you Sarah's favorite recipe from her collection, which is
Marry Me Chickpeas.
Awesome. Thanks so much for coming on, Sarah.
Thanks for having me.
If you made it this far, you're serious about growing your food empire. Thousands of the top recipe creators use Grocer's List to drive more website traffic, grow their email lists, and earn more through paid memberships. Head to grocerslist.com/podcast to learn more about how we can help you grow, engage, and monetize your audience.